Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Hello and welcome to the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today this is a bonus episode with an excerpt from our Law Firm Growth Summit. Our summit is coming up. Our 2022 event is coming up December 5th to the 7th, and we want you there. The Law Firm Growth Summit, if you're not familiar with it, is an event that is absolutely free to attend. It's run virtually. We do a really good job with virtual events. It's not your typical Zoom webinar. It is a conference platform where you can come and meet other attorneys and other people who are on at the same level as you and collaborate with them. We give you an opportunity to network. We give you an opportunity to connect with them. We also bring in some amazing vendors, and we have a vendor booth area where you can get access to questions that you might have for them on what their product has to offer, special deals that they might offer that is not available anywhere else, and you're getting that exclusively at the Law Firm Growth Summit. Now, the real meat and potatoes of the event is the topics, the sessions, and what we did this year is we broke up the tracking of those sessions into your specific law firm size. So we have the startup category, which is 0 to 250K in revenue. We have the expansion category, 250K to 2 million, and we have the legacy creator category, which is 2 million and above. And those are just guidelines, but we really tried to gear the topics to our variation of audience. We want everybody to be able to attend and get value. So we don't want you to feel like, oh, this is beneath me, or this is too advanced for me. We want you to have the right information for you. Now, we have over 30 leaders and experts and influencers in the industry that are going to be gracing our stage. So you want to make sure that you don't miss it. You want to go to lawfirmgrowthsummit.com/podcast, lawfirmgrowthsummit.com/podcast, and join us at the 2022 Law Firm Growth Summit. There's other exciting things going on. We're going to have some game shows, some prizes, and other opportunities for you to really enjoy the event and get the most out of it possible. On top of that, we have 2 amazing keynote sessions. We have Mike Michalowicz, renowned book author of Profit First and Clockwork and Pumpkin Plan and Fix This Next and Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. He actually spoke last year at the 2021 event on Profit First. This year he is not talking on Profit First, but everybody loved his talk so much that I had to have him come back. And he's going to be doing a talk on creating a business that can run without you, based on the content of his book Clockwork. It's going to be a great talk. You want to make sure that you're there. And then we have Jennifer Cuthbert, and Jennifer is a rock star law firm owner out of Atlanta. She's owns the Atlanta personal injury firm, and she is one of only 10 women-owned business to make the Inc. 5000 list this year, which is huge. Rapidly growing firm, and she's going to be talking about how to stake your claim, right? Take what's yours, own the right to be successful, and how to do it while balancing your personal life in the process. She's a mom. She's got young kids. How does she do it all with all of that other stuff going on without sacrificing those pieces? And I'm excited to have her joining us as a keynote speaker as well. So some really amazing stuff going on at the Law Firm Growth Summit. Remember, registration is absolutely free. All you got to do is go to lawfirmgrowthsummit.com/podcast and register and sign up. So the link to that is in the description of this episode. You don't have to go far. Just go in your podcast player, click that link, and go in and put in your information and make sure that you register for the event so you can join us at the 2022 Law Firm Growth Summit.
The client journey that you need to think about and you need to start developing for your law firm, right? Understanding that process, that journey that every client goes through with your law firm, and starting to define that and starting to figure out what spots of that are opportunities for you to delight your customers, right? So as you're starting to think about that and build it, it's like, all right, how is tech going to help? How is automation going to help? Because honestly, you're not going to do it without automation. It's just not going to happen, right? You may get a couple pieces of it, but you're not going to get enough to make a really big impact. So you're going to need to, whether you like it or not, you're going to need to have, process and workflow automation as part of your toolbox, right? So I want to talk to you guys and actually just give you guys flat out like automations that every law firm should have, right? And these are things, some of you guys might have these automations in place, some of you might not, but these are what I call block and tackling, right? Blocking and tackling, which is like, in a football game, blocking and tackling is the most fundamental thing that you can do, right? Everything else is like, elaborate passes and long touchdowns and all kinds of crazy stuff. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to block and tackle. You got to be able to do the fundamentals. And if you can't do the fundamentals, you're not going to be successful, right? And so these automations, these kind of strategies, I think, are the fundamentals to building your journey and to automating your journey and to really having a successful front end and also back end. When I say back end, I mean after the case is over, right? So having a successful front end and back end platform. So I know the title is like the client journey template, but I added this title in here, automating your way to success. And it's the corniest title ever. It is like super corny. And if I saw that, I probably would never go to I would probably think that the speaker is going to be super boring, and maybe I am. But it's super true, right? Like, you are going to automate your way to success. Like, automation is just super key right now. So I'm just going to start and I'm going to show you guys some automations that I think are going to be good strategies. Again, to everybody who's joined us over the last few minutes, please just start asking questions. Feel free to come up on stage. I will let everybody up on stage to chat. We can talk about anything. It doesn't even have to be about the actual subject matter. As long as it's relevant and other people will appreciate the conversation, I'm happy to have it. But to kick things off, I'm going to start with like the most basic automation that you could possibly have, right? And that is the PNC intro automation. And when I say PNC, I'm talking about potential new client. And now, again, a lot of these slides, I just kind of put together the flow of how an automation would look. I'm happy to show you guys how an automation would look in Lawmatics, but this isn't necessarily about Lawmatics. This is about just, you guys figuring out how to build some of these automations and getting some strategies. But if you all want to see it in Lawmatics because it's more contextual or anything like that, I'm happy to show you that as well. Feel free to just, ping away, ask in the chat, let me know that you want to see that, and I'm happy to do that. But here's a basic automation, right? And every single one of you should have an automation like this. This is the very top of the funnel. This is for traffic that you drive to your website, or for people who call in and it gets, and they hit an answering service, or they hit your receptionist, anything like that, anything besides really you, right? So the top part is what we call the entry rule, right? So when you're talking about automations, you have to have a trigger or an entry rule, right? Those, they're the same thing. A trigger and an entry rule are the same things. So what starts the automation? So it's always going to be at the top here. And so for this automation, we're always going to start it when someone fills out a form on our website, or we're going to start it when someone actually calls in to our firm, right? So the first thing we want to do is you want to engage them with a text message, right? And I think that text message should have a link for them to schedule their consultation right in that text message. It can be an email as well, okay? It doesn't have to be a text. I like text better, at least for that initial engagement. But it can be an email. So you need to have that if you don't, okay? But here's another trick, right? Here's a trick of the trade that I think everybody should understand, right? Because what you don't want to have happen is you don't want automations. This is a very important tip. You don't want to have automations look like automations or feel like automations to the client, right? You want it to feel natural. And this is a great example. So if I fill out a website form and then as soon as I click the button, I get a text message saying, welcome to our law firm, click here to, we'd love to meet you, schedule a consultation. Like, obviously that's automated and it's automated, right? So a little strategy for that is adding a slight delay in the automation before you actually send out the text. And that could be like as it doesn't have to be super long. It could be like a minute or 2 minutes that you add a little delay, right? And then you send out the text. But it just has the ability of potentially humanizing the interaction a little bit more. And that's one of the risks with automation, right? Is that it ends up seeming, it just seems like it's a machine, and it could feel like it loses that personal touch. So a way to remedy that is to just think about some of these delays and use them strategically. Okay. So I would throw a little delay in there, and actually, like, to kind of show you what that looks like, because I have a really good example of that. Right here is like, when you have your entry condition, this is what it looks like. You just throw a little delay in there, and like you can see here, I have a delay of 1 minute. So what's going to happen with an automation, the way automations work, as I'm sure most of you understand, is it's just going to, each action is its own action. So it hits that delay, it waits, and then it does the next action. So again, a little delay and then sending that booking link. But it doesn't end there. A good automation, in most cases, never just like ends after the first action, or a lot of times even after the second action. You want to make some decisions. You want to be able to follow up automatically. So here is what I recommend for most initial reach outs to get somebody to schedule. You send out that booking link, whether it's email or text, and then you wait a day. And then after a day, you got to check and you got to see if they booked a consultation with you. And if they did, then you don't need to do anything right at that moment. But if they did not, you need to send them a reminder. You need to try to get them to book that appointment, right? So this is a basic one. It gets you a 2-day cadence to make sure that they schedule that appointment. If you put this into effect tomorrow, I promise you, you will see significantly more consultations booked. If you have 100% consultation book rate, then that's great. But I bet nobody does. And so this will increase your rate of people who come in as a lead or contact your firm and schedule a consultation. It will have that effect, right? So this is one really great automation that everybody should have. Here's another one, okay? Kind of the next on the list, right? So again, what you're doing when somebody reaches out to you, and this is true now, years ago, it used to only be true for some specific practice areas. Now I think it's true for almost all practice areas, is that when someone contacts you, they're probably going to call somebody else. They're going to go on Google. They're going to call. You're not the only lawyer they're reaching out to. So you want to capture their attention, right? You want to capture their attention as quick as you can. And so one way to do that is to just keep engaging with them, right? You remember me talking about in my discussion about delighting the customer during the intake journey, the intake phase of the journey. You want to make sure that you're engaging them, keeping them engaged with your firm so that they're not focusing on everybody else. And this is a big step, because if they go through this step, I can almost guarantee you that they're not going to contact another lawyer. They will already feel like they've invested in your firm enough to just come in for the consultation and then take it from there, right? So this is a critical step. And so this step, again, looking at the trigger for this automation, you want to trigger this automation once they've booked a consultation. And again, in any good automation platform, any good CRM that has automation in it, you're going to be able to trigger an automation off of whether they've booked a consultation or not. Okay. So consultation is booked. Then again, you might want to have a little delay so that it doesn't feel like it's robotic, but you want to send an intake form, an online intake form to be filled out. And so this could be based on the practice area. And again, you're going to identify the practice area when they first come into your firm, whether it's through phone or whether it's the website. So you're going to know what type of case they have. And then based on that type of case, you can send out the correct intake form automatically, right? And you want that intake form to be somewhat meaty. You don't want it to be just like first name, last name, and tell us about your case. And, if it's an accident, like what's the date of accident? Like, you want it to be meaningful. You want them to have to, to sit down and take a few minutes to answer the questions, right? And they will. They're going to be, trust me, they're going to be delighted at the opportunity to interact with you this way. A lot of people contacting the lawyer, like they actually feel more comfortable sometimes giving this information not in the face-to-face setting, and like feeling like they're first kind of getting some information about their case out there, without actually having to like sit there and be in person with you or talk to you. So you're going to want to send that form out. Then you're going to wait a day, right? And again, you're building in that follow-up to make sure that things are not slipping through the cracks. You're using automations to make sure that your processes are driving traffic and driving the actions that you want to have taken. In this case, the action that you want to have taken is them filling out the form. So if they don't fill out that form, you need to have an automated cadence in order to pick them up. So I would wait one day, because again, like these things happen pretty quickly. Sometimes you might even want to only wait like a few hours and then check to see if they filled out the form. But in this situation, I think a day is pretty reasonable. So you're going to wait a day, then you're going to check and see if they filled out the form. And if they have not filled out the form, again, if they filled out the form, then great. You don't need to do anything in this situation. But if they have not filled out the form, what are you going to do? You're going to send them another email or a text message reminder with another link to fill out that form. And you're going to say, hey, we noticed that you haven't filled out the intake form. Please, we'd love to get this information from you so we can start evaluating your case before you come in. So please, get this form done, as soon as you can, or before your consultation, or however you want to, whatever language you want to use with them. It's a really important automation to have in place, right? So again, 2 really specific intake automations that are going to just delight your customers. They are going to feel so engaged. And again, for better or for worse, you're setting a precedent here, right? Your first impression with them is suggesting that you are a power communicator. You are an expert at communicating. They are going to get really excited about that. The flip side, though, is you're going to then need to deliver on that communication expectation once they're a client, right? So you want to think about that, and you want to make sure you have the systems in place to kind of live up to that expectation. But it's a good thing. Like, you want them to have that expectation of you, and you want to deliver on it, right? So again, another really good automation here. Again, guys, any questions that you have on any of this stuff, please just fire away in the chat, or raise your hand to come on up and ask the question in person, and would love to have that discussion. So the next one, this is super basic. It's like one little automation, but honestly, you would be shocked at how many people don't have something like this automated, right? They're going to have their consultation. You need to send out a reminder. The key, in my opinion, is not sending out a reminder like as a result of them booking, right? A lot of automation platforms will make it very easy for you to say, all right, they booked their appointment, now send an email reminder or something. You want to schedule the reminder to go off of amount of time before the consultation is going to take place, right? So, for example, we have consultation set up for Friday. You want to send out Thursday the confirmation email. You may want to do it 2 days before as well. But I think typically the cadence that we see, 1 day is pretty good, because most people are booking consultations pretty close to like the actual consultation occurs pretty close to when they actually book it. So there's sometimes not a lot of time in between there. So what I recommend is actually sending out a confirmation as soon as they book the appointment. So in this previous automation, actually, where it says that they booked, you might just include in this automation sending out the confirmation email, right? But this is different. This is a reminder email, and they are different, right? And in that reminder, you should make sure you're including any instructions or directions for the consultation, right? Again, you would be shocked at how many people just say, hey, just confirming your consultation for tomorrow at whatever time. Look forward to seeing you. Go a step further. Include put a map with like a Google map in there with the little pin of where the office is. If it's a Zoom call, if it's going to be Zoom, have that automated, right? have the Zoom, like in Lawmatics, for example, you can, when they book the appointment, you can have it automatically create a Zoom link and attach it to that appointment. You want to do something like that. And then in the instructions, you could have 2 different emails go out. Remember, with automations, you can always make choices. So you could say something like, if this is going to be an in-person meeting, then send this email that has the directions to the office. If it's going to be a virtual meeting, send this email, which reminds them that it's going to be a Zoom meeting, right? So you want to be specific. You want to, you have the opportunity to these aren't tasks that you have to do. It's not like you have to sit down there and write this long email and you got to every single time you got to type out the directions to your office and do all that stuff. You're not doing that. You're doing it one time. That's the beauty of automations. So you can make it really personal. You can make it a really great experience for those clients.
Have you been enjoying the show? We sure hope so. To make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player app. Next week, we will be back with more valuable resources and ideas on how to break the mold and take your law firm to the next level.